Welcome to TVBS Meeting Room, where we tackle global issues with a view from Taiwan. I'm your host, Wen Yu. Since the Trump administration, there's been a paradigm shift in the US-led post-Second War free trade economic order. Industrial policy, trade tariffs, and to a certain extent, protectionism have now dominated the global economic conversations. Today's guest is Matt Goodman, who leads the Geoeconomic Studies program at the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a former director of international economics at the White House National Security Council during the Obama and Bush administrations. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
How has the Make America Great movement, the MAGA movement, changed America's international economic engagement?
That I think in both parties and really across the political spectrum in the United States, there's been a pretty significant change in our views and approach to trade policy, to U.S. engagement in the international economy. We used to have a consensus in the United States about our engagement in the world economy, but that consensus started to break down as early as the 1970s when there were changes in our economy that were pretty profound, and changes in the view of Washington because of Watergate and Vietnam. And so trust kind of broke down. I think the Republican platform really reflects on some level some of those changes in the overall consensus here, with a particular Trumpian twist to those issues.
China in some way has become sort of the center of whether it's MAGA economics or MAGA foreign policy, right? It has, what's fascinating is that it has united both domestically in terms of the left behinds, I would call them, due to decades of globalization. It has also united the national security hawks, whether it's from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, especially given the new frontier of technology competition. What are the trade-offs when there's such change in terms of US policy toward China?
I think that there are some genuine concerns here that go beyond national security. It's appropriate that the U.S. government should be concerned about some of the actions by China in its own near abroad. The concerns about building up sort of non-transparently this military capability for purposes that are still unknown. There are concerns about technology and the way China is acquiring technological leads. In addition, I think there's a range of economic concerns regarding China. Its overcapacity, its massive subsidization, and sort of structural imbalances in the Chinese economy, where consumption is underplayed and investment and production are invested in heavily with government subsidies.
In a recent interview with Bloomberg, Trump said that Taiwan took away all of America's semiconductor businesses. So how do you interpret what he meant and what that might mean for if there's a second Trump administration semiconductor policy? How is that going to be different from the Biden administration's?
I wouldn't take the literal point too seriously about what he's going to do on semiconductors made in Taiwan. I think it's more a reflection of his general sense that we're being taken advantage of in some way.
We all know that the CHIPS and Science Act has been very popular, I would say, among industry leaders from everyone I talked to. However, the export control policy seems to elicit more questions and more doubts, especially regarding if it could truly impede China's chip development capabilities and whether this policy is truly good for American companies. So what is the trade-off here?
There is just a reality that we get a substantial number of our chips from one great source, TSMC, which is a great company, and from Taiwan, and I think it's partly a national security concern, but it's partly the vulnerabilities that were exposed during the pandemic and the supply chain shocks. There's a concern that we shouldn't be so reliant on any one place for such an important item. And so I think in both parties and across the political spectrum, again, I think there is a belief that we ought to be trying to diversify supply chains for things like semiconductors. That doesn't mean hollowing out of Taiwan is a policy objective and of either party really, and it doesn't mean that Taiwan always is going to is it's a zero sum loss for Taiwan.